What would you do if on the night of your luxurious engagement party, you locked eyes with the one woman you thought had vanished from your life forever and saw 3 children standing beside her who looked exactly like you? That's exactly what happened to billionaire tech mogul Andrew Walker the night he was supposed to celebrate a perfect corporate marriage with the elite of New York. But instead of toasting his future with a glass of vintage champagne, he found himself staring into the haunted eyes of Grace Taylor, the love he'd lost 15 years ago, and into the faces of 2 teenagers and a boy who shook his world to its core. What came next unraveled his empire, exposed betrayal deeper than blood, and led to a high-stakes game of power, blackmail, and redemption across state lines. From boardrooms and courtrooms to dusty Texas roads and glowing oak trees, Andrew had to choose: protect the empire he built or fight for the family he never knew he had. Stay with us as we uncover a breathtaking journey of second chances, secrets, and the power of love that no amount of money could ever buy. The twist you didn't see coming starts now. The Grand Oak Hotel's chandeliered hall glittered like a modern Versailles. Senators raised crystal flutes, celebrities compared diamond cuffs, venture capital titans congratulated Andrew on his upcoming merger, both corporate and personal. At his side stood Vanessa Blake, flawless in a silver gown that photographed like liquid mercury. Their engagement had been trumpeted as the union that will reshape Wall Street. Only Andrew knew his smile was beginning to ache. Mr. Walker, quick menu confirmation. The event coordinator's request sounded harmless, but Andrew's pulse spiked. He dreaded these behind-the-scenes glimpses, the polished illusion inevitably cracked. Still, he excused himself and slipped through the golden doors that separated opulence from hard-working heat. The kitchen roared with industrial fans and the staccato of knives on boards. Then Andrew saw her. Grace Taylor, white chef's jacket, crisp dark hair twisted into a no-nonsense knot, stood at the pass, issuing commands with the same quiet authority she once used to convince a 20-year-old Andrew to ditch instant ramen for real risotto. 15 years vanished. The last time he had seen her, she was boarding a train with tears she refused to let fall. Grace looked up, brown eyes locking onto blue. The noise evaporated. 1 heartbeat. 2. She blinked first, yet didn't flinch. "Mr. Walker," she said evenly, voice betraying only a ghost of tremor. "An honor to cook for your celebration. Honor's mine, Chef Taylor." Andrew's throat tightened around the formal words. He felt the hotel's chilled air, yet somehow couldn't breathe. Movement beside her, 3 youths in miniature jackets. A boy and a girl of about 14, and a younger kid, elbow deep in silverware. Grace placed a gentle hand on the eldest boy's shoulder. "Allow me to introduce my team. Lucas and Emma, my twins, and their little brother Jack. Twins. 14. The math struck like a body blow. Lucas's eyes were mirrors of Andrew's own. Emma's half-smile was vintage Grace. Jack's grin, missing a front tooth, was a sunshine punch that almost made Andrew stagger. "Pleasure to meet you," Lucas said, extending a confident hand. "Mom says you build cool apps. I'm teaching myself Python." Andrew shook electricity zipping up his arm. "We should compare code sometime." He meant it more than he'd meant anything in years. Emma inched forward, cheeks pink. "I prefer kitchens to keyboards. Someday I'll study in Paris." "She'll eclipse me within 5 years," Grace admitted, unable to hide maternal pride. Andrew fought the urge to ask 100 questions that should never be asked in front of a ballroom of waiting power brokers. Vanessa's voice sliced through steam and memory. She stood at the threshold, eyes scanning the tableau. "Guests are asking for you." He stepped back, but Vanessa's gaze locked onto Lucas. "Strange," she murmured, lips barely moving. "He looks, familiar." Andrew's heart iced over, but before he could deflect, the hotel lights blinked. Then darkness. Gasps erupted from the ballroom. An emergency generator hummed, bathing the kitchen in red exit sign glow. In that momentary hush, Andrew felt something brush his sleeve. A folded ivory card rested on his plate inspection clipboard. "Meet me where it all ended, midnight." No signature, no need for one. When full power returned, Vanessa herded Andrew back to the party. The blackout became instant cocktail chatter. Telecom CEOs joked about grid reliability. Andrew felt anything but steady. At 9:07 p.m., a gossip outlet pushed a notification: spotted teen lookalikes at Walker Gala, secret heirs. The photo showed Lucas and Emma plating hors d'oeuvres, their profiles unmistakably Walker-esque. Vanessa's phone pinged. Her glare sharpened like a stiletto heel. Damage control teams were summoned. Hashtags blossomed faster than hydrangeas in May. By 11:45 p.m., Andrew slipped away from the final toast heart, hammering toward the rooftop garden where he'd first kissed Grace 15 years earlier. He never made it. In a service corridor, a small hand tugged his sleeve. Jack, freckles, solemn eyes. He pressed a thumb drive into Andrew's palm. Mom said you'd know what to do. Before Andrew could respond, the boy darted off sneakers, squeaking a farewell. Back in his penthouse later, Andrew loaded the drive. One corrupted audio file played half a whisper before cutting to static. They're watching. Who? Vanessa. His own board. Someone worse. The ground beneath him didn't just tilt now. It threatened to swallow him whole. Midnight had struck, and for the first time in a decade, Andrew Walker felt genuinely terrified. Not of losing billions, but of losing something he'd only just realized he could still have. Sorry to leave you hanging right here. We know the suspense is brutal, but what do you think Grace meant by their watching, and who might be lurking in the shadows? If you were Andrew, would you confront Vanessa tonight or follow the mysterious note to the rooftop garden? First, tell us in the comments which country you're watching from, and if this twist has your heart racing, please tap that like button and drop a heart to support the channel. We'll be back with part 2 soon. Thanks for sticking with us. What would you do if the truth you've chased for 15 years suddenly slammed into you, and the next moment someone tried to erase it? Andrew Walker hadn't slept. At dawn, he sped through a drizzling Manhattan to the Heart and Hearth bistro, the thumb drive whisper. Their watching still echoing like a ticking bomb. Inside, flower dust floated in amber morning light. Grace Taylor kneaded dough with the fierce calm only heartbreak can teach. When Andrew burst through the door, she didn't flinch. She simply wiped her hands and said, "So they found you too." Her words rattled him. Grace, who's watching? The same people who once told me to disappear or watch my father's business burn. She met his eyes, voice splintering. Your family's lawyers, Andrew. They threatened jail, foreclosure, anything to keep me out of your life. Guilt knifed him. He'd always believed Grace left because she'd stopped loving him. Instead, she'd carried twins and terror across a decade and a half. Footsteps. Lucas and Emma hurried in curious. Lucas's gaze flicked from Andrew to Grace, codebreaker sharp. Emma's baking mitts trembled. Then the bell above the door chimed a second time. 2 men in dark suits lingered outside, snapping photos through rain-fogged glass. Grace pulled the shades. Those vultures have been circling since last night's blackout. Before Andrew could respond, his phone vibrated. Logan Brooks' best friend turned COO texted board meeting, moved to 9 a.m. mandatory. A cold dread tightened his chest. He turned back to Grace. Give me a few hours. I'll make this right. Grace's laugh was all rusted nails. Your world runs on contracts and press releases. Mine runs on trust. Which currency do you think buys safety for my kids? Jack, still in pajamas, toddled out, hugging Andrew's leg as if it were perfectly normal. The simple weight of the boy's arms made Andrew's resolve harden, like tempered steel. 9 o'clock, Walker Global Headquarters. Logan and Vanessa Blake waited with shark-bright smiles. You're late, Vanessa purred. Family emergency. Right. She slid a document stack across the table, agreements transferring 40% of Andrew's holdings to a shell company. His signature glared from each page. That's forgery. Try proving it, Logan said almost gently. Board already voted the signatures are digital verified. You've been distracted. Vanessa's smile sharpened. Accept the new structure, marry me on schedule, and your chef problem disappears. Fight us, and Child Protective Services gets an anonymous tip about minors working kitchen shifts before school. She tapped her phone. As if on cue, Andrew's feed flashed breaking news. Health inspectors shut down neighborhood bistro for violations. Grace's restaurant swarmed by reporters, yellow tape flapping in the rain. Rage roared inside him, hot, primal, but he forced a cool smile. Of course, he said. Let me just call my attorney. He stepped into the hallway, eyes blazing, and texted Lucas the emergency number he'd memorized from the note Jack delivered. Erase nothing. Back up everything. The boy replied with a single emoji. Back downtown, the bistro was chaos. Health officials cataloged non-existent mold cameras flashed, and Grace clutched Jack while Emma sobbed into her apron. Lucas stood at a laptop barricade uploading code to a cloud drive. Vanessa arrived in a black umbrella like a villainess from an opera. $5 million, Grace, she whispered, voice sugar poisoned. Take the children anywhere south of the equator and forget Andrew exists. I wouldn't trade my kid's last name for your entire trust fund, Grace spat. Vanessa's eyes glittered. Then watch what happens when CPS pulls them out of your arms. Sirens. 2 social service vans skidded to a stop. Andrew barreled in rain-soaked just as uniformed agents stepped forward. He flashed every ounce of Billionaire Authority legal team on speaker press contacts on standby, but the lead agent held an official complaint citing exploitation of minors. Emma trembled. Jack hid behind Lucas. Andrew faced Grace. Let me fix this. Fix, she whispered. You're the earthquake and the repairman all at once. And still she allowed him to help hustle the children out the back exit. They crammed into her ancient SUV, glorying under flickering alley light. Thunder cracked. Paparazzi lenses hunted. Drive west, Andrew urged. I'll catch up. Grace's jaw set. Running is the only safety I can afford. She slammed the door. Tires screeched into rain taillights, swallowed by dawn. Andrew sprinted toward his car, then froze. A matte black Escalade idled at the curb, no plates. It rolled after Grace, silent as a predator. By nightfall, national outlets ran the headline, Walker Air Scandal, Fiancé Denies, Love Child Rumors. Andrew watched from an empty penthouse while Logan texted fake condolences. He didn't reply. He was too busy moving chess pieces. No one suspected he could still control private investigators, forensic accountants, one retired federal judge who owed him a favor. At 2 a.m., Lucas's encrypted file flashed across Andrew's screen proof of Vanessa's bribe to a family court magistrate. Finally, a weapon sharp enough to draw blood. But Grace was somewhere on an interstate with 3 kids in a silent gunmetal SUV trailing miles behind. The storm had truly begun. We're pausing here, yes, right at the height of the chase. We know it's agonizing. And do you think Grace was right to flee, or should she have trusted Andrew's promise to protect her on the spot? Who's inside that shadowy Escalade? Vanessa's goons, Andrew's enemies, or someone we haven't met yet? Tell us what country you're watching from. Smash that like button if the tension's got your pulse pounding, and drop a heart so we know you're with us. Thanks for bearing with the cliffhanger. We'll be back soon with part 3. Dawn bled across the Texas horizon when Grace Taylor's SUV finally sputtered onto a gravel farm road outside Austin. The kids were asleep in the back seat, exhaustion softening even Lucas's vigilant stare. But the Escalade still loomed 200 yards behind them, lights off, engine purring like a beast patient for carnage. Grace killed the headlights, easing to a stop beside an abandoned barn. Her breath fogged the windshield as she gripped the wheel. Running had always kept her children safe until today. Somewhere on the interstate, Jack had whispered, "I'm tired of being afraid." The words still stung. A lone set of headlights crested the hill from the opposite direction, cutting through morning haze. Grace's heart hammered new threat or slim hope. The sedan slowed, hazard lights blinking a desperate Morse code. The driver stepped out, tall, rain-soaked, unmistakable. Andrew Walker. He raised empty palms. "I'm alone," he called into the wind. "Let me finish what I should have started 15 years ago." Before Grace could answer, the Escalade's doors flew open. 2 men in charcoal suits advanced, but Andrew moved faster, pressing a remote that triggered every phone in their pockets. Logan's forged contracts, Vanessa's bribes, money laundering spreadsheets burst across the screens in damning neon. The men froze. The game had changed in a single keystroke. Police cruisers howled up the road next. Andrew had enlisted the retired federal judge, and with him, 2 Texas Rangers. The agents cuffed the men without a word. Blue lights strobing against dawn finally convinced Grace that Andrew's promise was more than speech. Lucas and Emma tumbled from the SUV, running straight to their mother, then to their father. Even Jack, bleary-eyed, slipped his hand into Andrew's. No one spoke. The wind carried enough noise for all of them. Back in New York, Logan Brooks tried to board a charter. To Luxembourg FBI agents met him at the gate. Vanessa Blake awakened to the thud of a battering ram and the flash of a dozen subpoena warrants. By noon, every major outlet streamed the downfall, fraud, conspiracy, kidnapping conspiracy. Social media feeds that once crowned Vanessa, a style icon, now dissected her mugshot pixel by pixel. But the real news traveled quietly. Andrew sold his controlling interest in Walker Global to fund a new entity, Bright Futures Foundation, dedicated to free tech education and food security programs in underserved cities. He wired the first $10 million while sitting at Grace's kitchen table in Austin. Jack, coloring dinosaurs beside the laptop. Grace watched his hands on the keyboard, hands that once signed away her future, now redirecting fortunes to rebuild it. Why, she whispered. Because money is loud, Andrew said, and I want the world to hear what I should have said all along: we matter. He looked at the children. All of us. Weeks passed. Grace reopened her bistro in Austin, rebranded as Heart and Hearth 2.0. Lucas coded an ordering app that drew local news. Emma's pecan-crusted salmon won a statewide teen chef competition. Jack became the town's most enthusiastic soccer recruiter, roping half the neighborhood into dust scrimmages. Andrew commuted between Austin and Bright Futures Tech Lab, each trip another stitch in the family's newly mended seam. One Saturday afternoon, Andrew asked Grace to meet him on the land he'd quietly purchased just beyond the city limits. She arrived to find picnic blankets spread beneath a grove of live oaks, fairy lights strung between branches, and the kids waiting in their Sunday best. Andrew stepped forward, voice shaking despite boardroom polish. I once offered you everything but honesty. Tonight I have only honesty to give. He knelt, not with a ring, but with a small wooden box carved by Lucas on a 3D printer. Inside lay 3 river stones, one painted by each child. Emma's stone read trust, Lucas's read choice, Jack's read forever. Grace Naomi Taylor, will you build a life with me, stone by stone in the open, where no one can tear it down? Tears slid down Grace's cheeks, but her voice was steady. Only if we build it together. She lifted the stones for the children to see. These are our blueprints. They married beneath those same oaks 6 weeks later. No crystal chandeliers, no guest list of power brokers, just picnic tables, a pork shoulder smoker borrowed from the neighbor, and 3 kids who couldn't stop grinning every time mom and dad appeared in the same sentence. When Andrew recited his vows, promising to love openly, parent fearlessly, and listen before speaking, Grace laughed through her tears and handed him the 4th stone she'd painted for the occasion. It read, begin. That night, after the last sparkler fizzled and the kids fell asleep under quilts, Grace and Andrew sat on their new porch overlooking framed stakes where Bright Futures' first rural classroom would rise. Crickets sang. The air smelled of cedar and possibility. Do you regret giving up the empire, she asked. Andrew laced his fingers through hers. Empires can crumble in a tweet. But this, he nodded toward the sleeping kids, this survives every algorithm. Months later, Bright Futures' rural campus opened with Emma's pastries in the cafeteria, Lucas teaching intro to coding, and Jack handing out footballs like business cards. A bronze plaque at the entrance read, built on second chances. Visitors asked whose idea it was. The family always answered in chorus, all of ours. And if you drive that Texas back road at dusk, you might still see a billionaire in muddy boots coaching a pickup soccer game, a chef testing recipes on giggling teens, and 3 kids who learned that the safest place in the world is not behind locked doors, but inside the arms that never quit reaching for you. Endings aren't gates, they're gateways. And every gateway opens to a road that can lead you home if you're brave enough to take the turn. We're so sorry to pause our story here. Every journey needs a breath before the new adventure begins. Do you believe Andrew's choice to abandon his empire was the ultimate proof of love? Or would you have balanced both worlds differently? Which moment moved you the most? The Dawn Road rescue, the Oak Grove proposal, or the opening of Bright Futures rural campus? Tell us what you think of the story. Comment no. 3 if you loved it, no. 1 if it missed the mark, or no. 2 if it was somewhere in between. And let us know which country you're watching from. If this tale touched your heart, please drop a heart and share the video so more friends can find their own turn toward home.